just set up this quick workflow and see how I get through. There might be a need to do some debugging along the way, but that's what we're here for, and this is a record of me trying to just embed, so to say, the knowledge I just acquired. So, as usual, the first step of most workflows is manual trigger or a trigger of sorts. I'm going to use a manual on this one. I can always replace it with something else in the near future, and definitely bearing in mind the first, or at least the beginning of the workflow relates to Google Drive. So install the Google node there, and I'm going to be downloading a file basically from Google Drive in this instance. Same old drill, set your credentials. I do have a already existing one. Put determine, or at least decide what you're going to do with this node. It's a file download, as you can see, and I've got a specific file I've uploaded already into my Google Drive, so I'll go look for that file, select the file, let's see if I can retrieve it. I think I called it Nike something. Let's see if I can find it. Search Nike, so let's see if anything comes up with Nike. Yeah, Nike press release, that's the one. One thing I learned though with my Windows, if I double tap with my touchpad, it doesn't seem to select correctly, so I have to use the actual button itself to get it right. So that's fine. Let's see if there are any options to add. Not really, don't need any options. So that's the first step. Let's see what that does. Let's test that, see if I can get the file. So yeah, that retrieves the file. It retrieves it in binary format. I can download it. So that's the first part of the workflow done. Next, I'm going to attach another node. Now this is the node that relates to the vector database. I'm going to be using what am I going to be using this time? I think I'm going to be using Pinecone. Install. I don't care. I don't want to use that. I'm going to use Pinecone. So let's attach a Pinecone vector store. Pinecone vector store to my workflow, and this time around the actions you can do with that kind of node are to get ranked documents, add documents to the vector store, retrieve documents, or update vector store documents. So I'm going to add documents in this simple case here. This is the configuration of it. I've popped over to Pinecone recently to register. I used the free registration option, just logged in my Google account, got the free options and stuff, went with the defaults, and I think one would need to generate a key, which I've done in my case. So I've got what I need in that regard, and with regards to indexes, I created an index. So let me go through some of that stuff. As I said, I need to do some. So I'll just say create an index. I'll say my I don't know, n8n vector idx. Another contain uppercase. Okay. As I said, some debugging might need to have been done along the way, so that's fine. n8n vector index. I'll do that. I'll go with the defaults for now, and I'll choose this small embedding module here, and I'll create my index. Okay, so I've got an index in there, and it's called that, and that's the dimensions, and that's good. So back to my n8n here. I'm going to insert documents. I've got my credentials set up, and I've set that up. It's just an API key really that you need to add the API key that I generated earlier. So that's fairly straightforward. And I'm going to pick an index that I want to upload. So that's the one I just created there, vector index, and that should be that really. I could test the step. Maybe not yet. Let's go. A few of the components need to be in place before I can do that. So Pinecone vector. Now the message here says no node connection to cloud input, embedding no node connected yet. So I need to install two components to this node. One is an embedding agent, so let's go with that. Now, because I'm a cheapo like myself, I'm not going to be using the Open API because I haven't got any credit or any payment details attached there. So I'll use the Gemini. Is there Grok? Embeddings with Llama. I've got a Llama installed, but that's too slow these days. Embeddings, Mistral, Cloud, Hugging Face, Google. I'll probably use my Google Gemini for this. That's fine. And similarly, in the Google Cloud, I've set up my project. Obviously, this is the project I'm using at the moment. But if I go to the console, Google AI Studio, in there I've generated a key which is relating to my project, and that's the key, and that's that really. So I've got a key for that. Similarly, I've made sure all the relevant services are enabled for this project. So back to here. So that's the API account, and you can see that all it is really just the API key that I added, which is fine. So let's keep that as that goes back to the canvas. The other thing I need to add to this node is a default data loader. So this determines how the data is going to be loaded once retrieved into the vector store. Now the PDF that I downloaded came in binary format, so I'm going to have to tell it that the data is coming in binary. The mode to load the data is I'll load all the input data. The data format, I'm going to ask it to automatically detect by MIME type. See if there are any options. Nope, let's leave that as a default. So I think that should be maybe good to go. Let's go back to the canvas. Let's store this in the meantime, just in case. One other thing that needs to be associated with this data loader is a text splitter. This is basically how it chunks the data together. I'm going to use the recursive character text split. I think that does it on the boundaries of words and the like in a logical fashion, so it doesn't split up sentences. So let's choose that. I don't think there's much configuration to be done there. Chunk size 1000 would do. Chunk overlap fine. So let's leave it at that. Save this. Let's see where we get with this. To be honest, let's test workflow and see how we get on. So that's reading the PDF. That's using the Google Embedder. So the Pinecone vector store is now trying to upload. As you can see, my technical vocab for n8n isn't particularly elaborate, let's put it that way, but hey, we all learn. So let's see where this goes. I'll pause and come back when this thing's done. Okay, we're back. Got an error here. It says the vector dimensions 0 does not match the dimensions of the index. So we've got two things here. We've got the vector database or vector store, which is Pinecone, and we've got the dimensions of the index, which is 1536. So let's see what it's on about. So if I go back to my Pinecone, dimensions of the index, now what's that all about? So vector index, that's my vector index here. The dimensions of the index, that's that, 1536. dimensions of the Pinecone. Pinecone vector store. Let's find out what item's talking about. Let's go back here. So the index itself, which is Pinecone, and the vector store. The vector dimensions does not match the dimensions of the index, the vector dimensions. Let's see what the vector dimensions are. So the vector dimensions are determined by the model, I guess. Go back to canvas. Embeddings module. Let's see which embeddings model I should use. Oh, there's an error there, doesn't it? The value, this much. It's not supported, so I really need to pick one of these. Okay, here we go. Modules embedding 001. Each model, let's expand this, make it slightly bigger. Each model is using a different dimensional determinant. Please make sure to use the same dimensionality for your vector store. The default module is 768 dimensional, so 768 is the magic figure in this regard. So I've picked that model. 768 is to be remembered. So if I go back to my vector here, hold on a sec, I need to take this call.